Hello everybody, my name is Fire and welcome back to another episode of Pokemon Power. On the last episode we had a wander around, we fought some Team Astral Grunts and we had a couple of Pokemon evolving, and as you can see there we got a few more encounters, so let's go. So we ended our last episode in the desert, and after fighting a few people and seeing some really cool looking Pokemon, Pumpkin starts to evolve. Pumpkin evolves into a really cool looking Venusaur. And Strawberry evolves into a Haybrill. And now that we're at the end of the desert, after fighting some trainers, we make our way to the next area, which is Rowloon City. So after having a look around and healing at the Pokemon Center, we make our way to the third gym and make our way through some Nose Pass puzzles to get to the first trainer. And the first one that the Ruin Maniac sends out is a Nose Pass, and of course Blaze is out the front, so this could be a bit tricky. But I go for a Flame Wheel. It doesn't really do that much damage. Nose Pass goes for a Spark, which hits Blaze for, again, not that much damage, but it doesn't leave him paralysed. So I try for a Nightshade as Nose Pass goes for Rock Throw. That sends him down to the yellow. And the Nightshade sends Nose Pass into the yellow. So I decided to go for another one, but of course the Nose Pass goes for Rest, meaning it falls asleep. And it also restores a lot of its health. Again, another Nightshade knocks it down to halfway, but luckily the Nose Pass is asleep, so we're able to get off another Nightshade despite the paralysis and knock it down. Now of course I decided to send in Ripple to get her a few levels, and he sends out Amora. So yep, naturally I decided to swap out back into Pumpkin. And the Amora goes for Ancient Power, but of course that won't do that much to Pumpkin. Nope. So we decide to go for Stomping Tantrum, which one-shots him. Oof. And that's Ruin Maniac Roderick's done. So then we decide to do another Nose Pass Plus and have the second trainer, who apparently hates the job. So then the Picnic sends out Rockruff as the first Pokemon, and I've got Ripple at the front, who's now level 11, but of course I want to swap out into Pumpkin again. And straight afterwards the Rockruff goes for a double team, raising its evasiveness. So I go for a Stomping Tantrum, and of course that one-shots the Rockruff. Then Picnic Jezebel sends out her Dustar, which is another cool looking Pokemon, but of course to try Stomping Tantrum, she has Levitate, so it goes for Fairy Wind, which doesn't really do that much to Pumpkin. So this time I try Brutal Swing, oof, which sends a Dustar into the yellow, but then the Dustar then tries for a Lucky Chant, which stops critical hits, but we just take it out with another Brutal Swing anyway. And that's Picnic and Jezebel dealt with. So now we're doing even faster Nose Pass puzzle, and that's the third trainer on the way. Now this Camper sends out his Rockruff, so I send out Ripple first, who is now level 13, but I still swap her out into Tundra this time. And because Tundra has Intimidate, that lowers the Rockruff's attack just before it goes for a bite. Not doing really that much to Tundra, but I go for a Frost Breath just before it tries for another bite, nearly knocking Tundra down into the half. And the Tundra crits, but the Rockruff does double team to raise his evasiveness even more, so that we might not hit it. But luckily Tundra does with another Frost Breath, doing another critical hit, and the Rockruff faints. I'm starting to wonder now if Frost Breath is a critical hit move, that it always crits. I don't know. But either way, he sends out his Rhyhorn next. So of course Tundra goes for another Frost Breath to one-shot him. And now that's Camper Cryo out. So this is pretty much the gym where we do Nose Pass puzzles and then beat trainers along the way. So this is pretty much the gym, we do Nose Pass puzzles and fight trainers on the way. We get to the gym leader. And the first Pokemon that OG-san sends out is a Larvitar. So I send out Ripple, and I decide to go for a Bubble Beam first. But the Larvitar goes for Stomping Tantrum, leaving Ripple with 2 health. Before we go for a Bubble Beam, leaving Larvitar into the yellow. But yeah, I decide to swap, and I swap into Pumpkin. And I decide to go for a Stomping Tantrum, knocking out the Larvitar. And the second Pokemon is Gothorita, so I decide to keep Pumpkin in. Now I decided to go for another Stomping Tantrum, but she uses Rock, and Pumpkin's weak arm activates, lowering his defense but raising his speed. The Stomping Tantrum one-shots the Gothorita, and Oji-san's third Pokemon is Probopass, so I decided to stay in with Pumpkin still, and Pumpkin hits with Stomping Tantrum, nearly one-shotting the Probopass, but Probopass's sturdy ability kicks in, and he goes for an attack but it misses, and I decided to go for Brutal Swing, but he heals the Probopass, and we hit him, knocking him into the yellow, but we get to go for it again, so we use Stomping Tantrum, this time knocking the Probopass out, and thus winning us the third gym badge, which is a statue badge. And we also get Rock Slide from Oji-san before we leave the gym. Now before we go anywhere far out of the gym, Caroline ambushes us and she wants to have a battle with us again, and of course she wants to battle us again. And the first Pokemon she sends out is her Curlier, and I forget the Ripples out the front, and of course there's a Sandstorm raging, so that'll hit Ripple every turn, but I decide to swap out into Blaze, and of course the Curlier goes for Draining Kiss, which does 10 damage to Blaze, and of course the Sandstorm's raging, so Blaze gets hit by the Sandstorm, but so does the Curlier, which is going to help a bit as I go for Flame Wheel, sending the Curlier into the red. Now the Curlier does have Curse Body, but she uses Hex on us, but because we're not under any side assailments it doesn't really do that much. So this time I decide to go for a Leer, lowering the Curlier's defense, and the Curlier goes for Draining Kiss. It doesn't really do that much, but it does send Blaze into the yellow, and the Curlier does heal a little bit. But thanks to the Sandstorm though, she does take a bit of extra residual damage, so I decide to go for Nightshade, knocking her out. Now Caroline's second Pokemon is Charmeleon, and I decide to go for Flame Wheel, which doesn't really do that much, and the Charmeleon goes for Ancient Power, so I decide to swamp out into Pumpkin and use Stomping Tantrum to knock the Charmeleon out. Now next Pokemon is Hatterene, which is a middle form of a starter which hasn't evolved yet, so we'll go for a Stomping Tantrum, which of course gives us a one-shot. Now our next Pokemon is a female Habril, and of course with Pumpkin we go for another Stomping Tantrum to leave her into the red, but Habril goes for a double kick, which of course activates Pumpkin's weak armour, which again lowers the defense but doesn't really matter, because Pumpkin is that tonky anyway. But luckily though, Habril does get buffeted by the Sandstorm, and we go for a Brutal Swing, knocking him out. Now Caroline's last Pokemon is Wingale. Now this time I go for a Brutal Swing, and that also goes for the one shot, so that's Caroline defeated again. Now Caroline gives us a surfboard which gives us access to a new area, so of course we go back to the Pokemon Center to heal and head back the way we came because we need to go there for the next area. I decided to do some surfing. And now that we come up to Route 6 we can get our new encounter, which is a wild Barbenin, which we managed to catch no problem, and I name him Bella. So then we carry on through Route 6, and we also make it into another area so we can get another new encounter here, which is a male Polynet, which we managed to catch in a Pokeball straight away, and I name him Wave. But now we make it into the mainland so we can get on with a bit of sightseeing and maybe catch a new thing, but not before we go to the Pokemon Center. Now having a wander around we find out that we need to go into this lighthouse to battle some people, so let's go. Now our first Pokemon opponent is young Sustain, and he sends out his Grandorent, and I forget the Ripples out the front, so I switch to Blaze, and he goes for Razor Leaf, which of course doesn't really do that much, so we go for a Flame Wheel, and the Grandorent goes for Foresight, but the Flame Wheel takes him down to the red, so we go for another Flame Wheel and he goes for another Razor Leaf, which only does about 5 damage, and another Flame Wheel knocks out the Grandorant. And the next Pokemon is a Kint Monk, so I go for a Flamethrower, but the Pokemon goes for Double Team, raising his evasiveness, so we might not hit it, but luckily we do. And we managed to knock him down just above half, so he goes for Spark, take a blaze down into the yellow, for one more flame wheel. Oh, just about knocks him into the red. So I decided to go for Nightshade, but I go for another spark. Knock a blaze down into the red because that was a crit, but of course we find out that Nightshade doesn't affect Kinetic Monk. So I send out Strawberry. And the Kinetic Monk goes for quick attack, that doesn't really do that much, but it does activate Strawberry's weak armour. There's lower defense but raises speed, so we might go ahead of Kinetic Monk. But of course the attack missed, and the Kinetic Monk goes for a spark, which doesn't really do too much to Strawberry, but it does activate weak armour again, lowering defense even more and raising speed, which is kind of dangerous now. And of course Strawberry gets paralysed as well. Luckily though, he breaks through the paralysis and knocking out the Pokemon, beating youngster Sustain. Now going up for a few more floors. Now our next Pokemon is Fire Breather Blaze. He sends out a Magby first, so of course Ripple should be fine. So I decide to go for Bubble Beam first, but the Magby is quicker and goes for Flame Wheel, doing kind of a bit of damage to Ripple, which burns him. But Bubble manages to knock the Magby down into the yellow before Ripple gets burnt again. The Magby goes for Confuse Ray as well, which of course confuses, and we do hit ourselves in confusion as well as being burnt, so this is kind of risky now. Then the Magby goes for Clear Smog, knocking Ripple down into the yellow. We managed to kill off a Bubble Beam, which finishes the Magby off. Now our second Pokemon is a Flager, and because Ripple's in the yellow and burnt, I decide to switch into Pumpkin. Now the Flager goes for Double Team Raise against Evasiveness, so now we might not be able to hit it, but I just go for a Stomping Tantrum, knocking him out in one go. And that's Fire Breather Blaze defeated. And now Ripple's evolving into a Stuck Ray. So after healing, going down the stairs and fighting some more trainers, we managed to make our way to the top of the lighthouse finally, and we meet Jay, who says that it's a beat him in a fighting challenge, then I get a prize. So we're up against Jay now. And his first Pokemon he sends out is a Ledian, and of course Ripple's out the front. But I forgot to heal her, so of course I swap into Blaze. And of course the Ledian uses Struggle Bug, which doesn't really do a lot to Blaze, but it does lower his special attack. So I go for Flame Wheel. And the Ledian goes for Struggle Bug again, this time taking Blaze down to about a third health lost. But we go with the Blaze. Yeah. We managed to get the Flame Wheel off, knocking out the Ledian. And Jay's next Pokemon is a Shocker 2, which will try and use the newly learned Fire Fang on, and the Shocker 2 uses Air Cutter, which is a critical hit, but we managed to get the Fire Fang off, which doesn't really do that much damage, so I decide to swap into Pumpkin. And the Shocker 2 wants to use Spark, but it doesn't affect Pumpkin, so we go for a Brutal Swing, knocking him out. Now his next Pokemon is a Pidgeotto, and I decide to go for a Brutal Swing. We send him out into the red, and he uses Razor Leaf, which does quite a bit to Pumpkin, but luckily not too bad. But it does activate Pumpkin's weak armour, which lowers his defense. But it does raise his speed, so it might be able to outspeed the Pidgeotto. But unfortunately though, Lighthouse Keeper J heals it, which brings it back to full. But we do get off a Brutal Swing, this time knocking the Pidgeotto into the red. But he uses a Hyper Potion this time, healing it to full again. So this time we have another Brutal Swing and knocking it into the red again, but luckily it doesn't heal this time, and we managed to knock out the Pidgeotto with another Brutal Swing. And the last Pokemon is an Avidan, so they go for a Brutal Swing on, and we managed to one-shot him, beating Lighthouse Keeper J. And we get an Amulet Coin for that. So now that we did that, we exit the lighthouse, we go to heal at the Pokemon Center, and then we go to leave to go to the next area. But then we find out that this is the end of the Pokemon Power demo, so I hope you all enjoyed this Nuzlocke challenge, and thank you, and I'll see you guys next time. And I love you.